the great, the legendary, the soaring beast of the sky, hunter of your small sheep and other cattle, and almost as probably proportionally big as you can seemingly think of it, you have the legendary Roc, which for the most part is depicted as just simply being a giant eagle. It can be varied from anywhere from giant eagles to pretty much any other predator bird, realistically. It's the pinnacle of predators that exist in the sky. And it should be, considering it's, 40 feet long in and of itself, big enough that hunting elephants is a common occurrence for it. I mean, supposedly it can hunt elephants, and I could believe that, but then it also has the capability to compete with dragons and other such, which once again leads to that dragons are really powerful, so I don't know how it gets to that hunting state, but small dragons do exist, so I guess that's a fair point. They primarily they fly constantly. They're built efficient for flight. They fly, their territories of at least 10 miles of territory to fly around and hunt for, which makes it wonder how people even bother to try to keep living in these areas, because this giant bird hunting and eating all your stuff is not exactly favorable to it, so who knows why adventurers don't get hired more often. But, it's capable of flight for long, long periods, even to the point where its flying capabilities allow it to sleep mid-air even in of itself. Beyond that, even with as much as it proves onto, it's only simply a CR9 creature, which puts it on one of the peak of animal efficiencies, because that puts it higher than most dinosaurs, higher than most land animals. Bottom tier if you get to the high end creatures to go for. But considering it's, even as is depicted in the bestiary, it's capable enough to be picking up camels, elephants, pretty much whatever it feels like eating. Ironically, it doesn't commonly decide to actually fight things. It usually picks them up and flies high elevations and lets gravity do all the work. Seeing as they primarily live at the peaks of impossibly hard mountains to climb, it really does have to fly the distance. It's one of those red dragon circumstances where its territory is huge because it lives in pretty much an impossible territory to do anything with. As with it's capable of fly, it is pretty capable on the land itself. So not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it primarily hunts flying wise for it. And it primarily nests on top of that to aim for impossible things. Seeing as this creature isn't exactly friendly to its own species beyond the need to mate every few decades or so, it's not surprising it lives in the most reclusive areas for it. Beyond that, it does happen to be very parenting, oddly enough. It actually functionally will keep track, of its territory and nest. They swap cycles to keep track of the nest, having at least one parent hanging out, and the other goes out to hunt. So, as much as they dislike each other, they are very good at parenting, which is about usual for things that isolate themselves. Other than that, it pretty much ranges anywhere from impossibly rocky mountains to stolen old masonry that gets left in places after being overhunted, most likely from the creature. And even having such a clutch of eggs, I think it varied from anywhere from 3 to 5 of them, which the eggs themselves are super valuable to pick up. Super valuable, because it's one of the few species that you're able to access as an animal companion. They grow significantly smaller, because between game balance and the fact that it doesn't get to hunt quite as much as an actual roc would regularly hunt. But beyond that, it's very valuable to acquire said eggs when you want them to get actual one fort. And even then, I think it goes for what? Like, I think it was something like 4K gold on average. As appearances have varied from it. Yeah, they have, you get 4K gold for safely transporting an undamaged one, which I don't know what you would do with a damaged one. Who's the idiot delivering broken eggs as a thing to get gold? But as it stands, most of them are pain in the butts to actually acquire because the kind of, I mean, it's a beast that flies and uses gravity to fight you is the biggest dilemma that comes out of it. As for stats wise, I mean, for CR9, it's pretty intimidating. Most of it's made up from its gargantuan size category, so it's 30 strength or 28 strength, whatever it is, isn't super impressive. It is one of the few animals that actually owns quite a few feats for once. Primarily, it has its flyby attack and improved initiative because, you know, it gets the jump on people. It does do power attacking, which is nice. It actually owns improved critical for CR9 is quite surprising. Even have the base attack. You know what? No, I don't think about it. Oh, it does. Never mind. But beyond that, it primarily is hunting literally by grabbing, dropping, which it has a fairly okay fly speed because 80 isn't exactly amazing. It's better than average, but for something that supposedly flies for miles on a daily basis, it doesn't exactly have the most amazing fly speed at doing it. But, like many things, it is designed to pick up, grab you, and pretty much toss you around. As it's stated, it typically is in more mountainish areas, so you'll get a lot of sheep and goat as their primary hunting sources of food. Let's see, the next image would be. But it can pretty much hunt whatever it really feels like hunting. Not much you can do about something the size of a freaking several times the size of a bus, to be fair. I mean, even the depiction here is kind of small comparatively, because elephants are not quite big enough to be going. They're like two size categories smaller, because they're only huge at like the high ends. But it primarily will hunt and eat small animals. And it is pretty much tracked around while hunting to aim for the small sheep. Sheep and goat are its common diet. Mostly because sheep is very commonly, you know, that herd animal that we all raise. Goats commonly live in mountainous areas, so it's a common go for it. Otherwise, you'll run into a lot of the times you'll know rocks nearby because there'll be lots of other scavengers flying around to follow, typically vultures and other options. They'll fly and track it down because once I mean, they become prey in themselves, but if you can get a free lunch, take the free lunch. Everyone's going to take free lunches. Even then, it has a very powerful use for it, like encounter-wise. Because just imagining you're out in the open fields, traveling to some direction, and you hear the screech of an eagle, or I guess I think it's like a hawk or something is the actual screech of an eagle you think of. But you hear the loud screech of a predator bird flying by. You see the shadow just massively looming over you. And even then, you assumed it's some kind of dragon, and just to see a giant bird swoop down and lift off your horse pulling your cart, or sweep by and grab some other local animal nearby. Villages will probably have very attentive to go and deal with it. There's a wide variety rocks can do. When you get a 40-foot gargantuan-sized creature, they have plenty of value. Is it the most amazing stats in the world? No. But it is enough of a threat to someone at CR9 to be lifted and then plummeted to their death. So if you really want to compete with it and really aim for it, venturing around emphasizing to like stealing its eggs would probably be one. Pretty sure there's even a quest in Kingmaker that pretty much does that stuff. Other than that, I mean, if there's a warm climate and a mountain to be climbed, there's probably a rock hiding in the area. If not a rock, probably a red dragon. But needless to say, the worst of the worst. And if anyone bothers to actually reach this far in distance, to make a suggestion of what kind of creature I should chat and make fun of and insult. But for now, I will say bye bye!